that we have honoring this weekend graduate from here. We want you to experience some of their stories coming from Uniontown and some of the just cool things that they've done throughout their lives to let you know that there's a big world outside of Fayette County, believe it or not. So these people that we're inducting this weekend, we'll be introducing the entire class of 2015 at the game this evening during the pregame, and then tomorrow morning we'll have a breakfast for them, and then we'll bring everyone into the auditorium and we'll do the official induction ceremony. So it's a great honor to be in the Hall of Fame. Just to give a little background, there's a committee, Mr. Mercadani, he's right over here. He's the one that kind of has orchestrated all of this, along with a lot of helpers, a lot of different committees. We have broken it up into the arts, academics, and athletics. And there are people this morning here representing each classification for the Hall of Fame this morning. So without any further ado, I want to just give you a little bit of background, but guys, girls, pay attention to these people because they're really cool people. I am feeling a little bit older now because now, in order to get into the Hall of Fame, you have to be 20 years removed from high school. And now there's already people that I went to school with that are being inducted. I hope to be inducted next year. Little hint there, Mr. Mercadani. But anyway, the first lady I'm going to introduce is Mrs. Emelson. I'll give a little background about Mrs. Emelson. Margaret Emelson, which is the auditorium is named after her, was an English, speech, drama, and gifted program educator at Uniontown Area High School for more than 30 years, beginning in 1966. She directed upwards of 100 plays and musical in the now named Margaret Emelson Auditorium. She founded the drama program and forensics and debate team. Mrs. Emelson spent hundreds of students to states and national tournaments in speech and debate. She coordinated the Frick Enrichment Seminars and the Pennsylvania Governor's School for Excellence programs. She holds 2 master's degrees, one in communications and one in divinity from the Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. Margaret was named Fayette County Educator of the Year in 1990 and Coach of the Year in 1993 by the Pennsylvania Speech League, and also in Florida in 2007 and 2008 during her retirement. Mrs. Emelson, I was in one play. Mrs. Emelson asked me one time to sing, be the lead singer in a play senior year for Guys and Dolls. I sucked. So I was a crafts person. So I was able to be on stage, I didn't sing, I didn't say a word. But Mrs. Emelson got me up on stage and it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life. Without any further ado, Mrs. Margaret Emelson.
He said my name is Margaret Emelson, but when there were students 30 to 40 or maybe longer years ago, they called me Mrs. E. So you can call me Mrs. E. When I look at you this morning, I think back on the time nearly 60 years ago when I was a junior in high school. Went to Beaver Falls High School. Have you heard of it? One morning I got up and I went out to the hall by the guidance office and I checked the bulletin board because that was the morning where they were going to post the new members of the National Honor Society. And so I looked all over that list and I looked at it again. Where I thought my name should be alphabetically, it wasn't there. I just stood there and looked at that list for a long time, and I thought, this must be a mistake. I had all the right grades. how could it be that I wasn't elected to the National Honor Society? I was pretty near tears when I went into the guidance office. And I said, "Miss Fullerton, what happened?" And she said, "Well, Margaret, one of the qualities that you have to be accepted in Honor Society is leadership. And another is service. And not very many of the teachers know you, and you haven't run for any office." I heard her. By my senior year, I was active on the student newspaper staff, the yearbook, president of the Junior Red Cross, president of the Tri-High Y, a member of the gym team, an officer in the Ushers Club, and the Ushers Club sponsored all the dances. Not only was I elected by the teachers my senior year, but the students elected me president of the National Honor Society. Lesson learned. And the best thing about learning a lesson the hard way is that if you listen, you only have to learn that lesson once. Being in Ushers Club was a great way to be active socially. It showed me what it would be like to go to all the dances. But then I had to figure out how I would get a boyfriend. If you wanted to be asked to the formal dances and go to the prom, you needed a steady boyfriend. Remember, this was in the 50s. Oh, it was my next lesson. Enter Sam. Sam was a wonderful guy, a sweet friend, and my ticket to the prom. Next lesson was learned. After Sam in high school came Tom in college. I had a real crush on Tom. He was an actor in the drama program at Geneva College. Well, guess who signed up to be on the stage crew? Tom didn't stay in my life forever, but his introduction to the theater did. Another lesson learned. After high school came college, and soon I was at the end of my time in college. And my professor asked me what my plan was for after college. Where would I be working? 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 Again, remember, it was the 1950s. Now, post-college jobs are everyday things, but then she told me about a teaching job and offered to put in a good word for me. I took her advice. I took the job. Chalk up another lesson learned. Fast forward 3 years, I was deep into learning a real lesson. I didn't like teaching at all. Right around then, I met my husband, Roger. And I said farewell to teaching. And Roger and I began to work in summer theater. And we fell in love, got married, and had 2 children, one of whom is sitting right down here. During the summer of 1966, I was sitting at home with those 2 children, both under the age of 2. And I was thinking to myself, you know, teaching looks pretty good. Another lesson learned. Next to the love I have for my family, my love for teaching and coaching speech, directing drama and coaching debate, doing plays here on this very stage at Uniontown Area High School is a close second to the love I have for my family. I love teaching, and I would like to think that I was pretty good at it. Directing plays and musicals enriched my life here, and the lives I would like to think of hundreds of students who were on this very stage, and also their parents, and classmates, and friends who were out there in the audience watching them perform. I have so many memories of so many shows, which I won't fill my time with this morning, but standing in this building, the Margaret A. Emerson Auditorium, I can see 30 years of students parading in front of my mind's eye. However, I do want to talk with you about just one thing right now. John Fortuna. Did you ever hear of him? John Fortuna, I guess, is your head football coach now, and he's my friend. When John was a senior here in 1970, I had already been teaching here for 5 years. And then he returned to work at Uniontown some years later, and I was still here. He was hired to be a kind of enforcer in what we called in the old days the box. If a teacher had difficulties with a student, if the student was disruptive and would challenge the teacher, or had some trouble in the class, the student would meet with Mr. Fortuna, and the two of them could discuss respect and responsibility. I know it isn't a problem with any of you out there, or you wouldn't be in this auditorium this morning. Some of you are getting ready to complete your time here at Uniontown High School. I encourage you to look for the lessons in your lives and to use those lessons as opportunities to set goals and make plans for yourself, to know what you want. And if you can keep a keen eye out for the lessons, then learn from them, perhaps even the first time, you will live a long and happy life, as I have. If you come tonight to the football game or the ceremony tomorrow morning here, I hope that our paths will cross again. In the meantime, good luck, God bless you, and God bless Uniontown Area High School.
Our next speaker this morning, we do have another categories kind of within the categories. We have educator, which would be Mrs. Evelson. Administrator with Dr. Macheski can't make it this evening, or this morning, and then also vocational technical area. The next gentleman that is going to represent that particular area, his name is Ron Kilgore, started in 1976, right? Graduated, sorry. I'm still young now, I know all this. So Ron is currently the Machining Center Project General Manager at Doosan Infracore, the 4th largest machine tool builder in the world. His entire career has been about cutting metal and metal cutting machines. It's called the machine tool industry. He started as machine operator at Rockwell International, now Census. He learned NC programming and moved to Union Switch and Signal in Swissville. He went on to earn a BS degree, Bachelor of Science, in manufacturing engineering. Ron has been working with the local Fayette County Career and Technical Institute and Executive Director, Dr. Edward Jeffries, to find ways to benefit the school and the students. The manufacturing industry is now highly technical, and it is Ron's hope to encourage more students to pursue careers in manufacturing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please welcome Ron Kilgore.
Mr. Herndon called me and asked me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. My first thought was to tell you a little bit about my story and then try to find a way to inspire you. On the 400-mile drive from New Jersey to here, I rethought that. My story is not important. My story has been written. Your story is what is important. As was said before, you have to be out of Uniontown for 20 years before you can be even considered for the Hall of Fame. For you seniors, that's 2036. One of you will be here in 2036. What will you say? What will you Where will you have been? How will you inspire the seniors of 2036? Being the first inductee from the Fayette County VOTEC, yes, that's what they called it back in 1976. I think I have to explain exactly what I do. But to do that, I think I need to tell you exactly what I don't do. Right? I'm not a teacher. Many of you will become teachers. I'm not an athlete. Many of you are athletes. I'm not a musician. Many of you are in the band, orchestra, symphony. The closest I came to becoming a musician was when I memorized the Silent Night numbers on my little sister's play-by-number organ. 5, 6, 5, 3, 5, 6, 5. Okay, don't want to hear that. Explain a little bit more about machine tools. They're involved in many things. The bus or car you came to school in today, many of the parts are made on machine tools. Some of our customers, John Deere, makes farm equipment on machine tools. Caterpillar makes heavy equipment on machine tools. That iPhone in your pocket, the metal case, was made on a machine tool. The water bottle that you're carrying around, the mold was made on a machine tool. We have customers that make replicas of medieval swords. Just about anything you are interested in, a machine tool is involved somewhere in the beginning. It's called the mother of all machines. All right? Let me tell you a little bit about how I got started. It was said I started down at Rockwell, now Census, running a machine. They didn't tell you how I got that job. Mr. Hoff was my, I'm going to call it, great teacher, like Mrs. Emerson. He taught me things that weren't in the class schedule. He took the time to talk to me about things outside the classroom. And in the end, when he didn't have to, he put his reputation on the line so that I could get that job at Census, Rockwell. Right? You got to remember, when I graduated at Uniontown High School at Fayette County Tech, I had no intention of ever setting foot in another school again. I had learned everything I needed to know. Some of you probably think the same thing, especially him. Right? After a couple of years working at Census, Rockwell, in a 95-degree heat, in 105-degree heat near the machine, I saw a young man walk past me. I call him young now. He probably was only 2 or 3 years older than me. Dan Steele. I still remember his name. He was in a white button-down shirt, a tie, slacks. He walked right past me as I was standing there sweating and walked up into the air-conditioned office. What does he do? A friend in the shop came to find out he was the one that programmed the machines that we were running. In my day, that was the high tech. It would be like the writing apps for your phone now or video games. That was the peak of what you could do with computers at the time. Well, how do I get that job? My friend Bill finds out we have to take 3 classes down at California State College at the time. Luckily, by the time I graduated, it turned into a university and it sounds more impressive. Yeah. 3 classes. Ouch. Remember, I swore off school forever. But there's air conditioning involved. I can handle this. So me and my friend Bill signed up for the classes. After the first class, I find out what I really need to know is trig, geometry. The word scares me, let alone what you have to do. It cost about 1 month's wages to take each one of those classes, and 2 nights a week to be down in California. Recently, after talking to the counselors here at Uniontown, I found out if I would have known, if somebody would have told me, I could have taken those classes here from the 9th grade on for free and been ahead of the game. I would encourage you to make the most of your time here at Uniontown. They told you I graduated from California. They didn't tell you when. I graduated California University of Pennsylvania in 1993. I graduated high school in 1976. By the time I started till the time I finished, it took 17 years. That was my biggest regret. Not going to college straight out of high school. I know it's difficult. I know it is challenging to you and your family. But if you have any ambition to go to college, I encourage you to do it right out of high school. I guess I'll take her line, lesson learned. The latest lesson I have learned, I asked for my transcript from Uniontown about 3 or 4 months ago. Now in 1976, your transcript was written on what looked like an old index card. It took them 2 or 3 days, but they found it. I now know what my grade was in health in the 9th grade. That's the permanent record they talk about. I'm not sure if they have the permanent record about you being in the box, but they do have your transcript. That transcript follows you your entire life. When you apply for college, they're going to look at that transcript. If you need trig and algebra, and it's not on that transcript, It doesn't matter what you know or who taught it to you. It needs to be documented. I recommend that you document anything you know as best you can. People are talking today about college degrees not being worth the money that it puts you in debt. I'll tell you the very minimum as someone who has to hire people from time to time. When that stack of resumes comes to my desk, the first thing that happens is everybody who does not have a degree of some kind gets pushed to the side. That degree puts you in the short pile. What a degree to me tells me is whether it applies to what you're trying to get a job in or not. You've spent 4 years working at something difficult. You've been trained at something complicated. And you were a worker. Every company has its own unique set of skills, own unique set of information that you have to learn. What we need are people who know how to get that information and start to use it. I wish I had more time. There are many things that I've been through that I would like to discuss with you, but there are many more people who have to come up after me. So I'll leave it at this. Thank you.
You got all morning if you want to. I'm just kidding. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, our next person, again, I'm excited because I actually went to school with this individual. Again, this is kind of part of our arts area of the Hall of Fame. Next person is Chris Tanner, and you graduated 1988, right? It says here in my notes 1989, but I know we didn't. I was 89, he was 88. 88! Anyway, Chris received his doctorate in music at West Virginia University. He is the founder and director of the Miami University Steel Drum Band. He has been a professor of music and administrator at Miami University since 1996. He has served as a guest clinician or performing artist at numerous festivals, workshops, high schools, and universities. He is frequently commissioned composer, arranger, and is an active and a performer and educator, receiving awards for his teaching. Chris has a long list of original compositions, arrangements, performances, lectures, and articles. Please give Dr. Tanner a round of applause.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here this weekend for these festivities and to get a chance, especially to speak to you this morning. As was mentioned in the introduction, I'm a professor at a university. I live out in Cincinnati, Ohio. Still a Steelers fan, though. I teach music. I have the greatest job, actually, in the world. I love what I do. And I'm hopeful that you'll be able to find something that you really enjoy doing and turn that into your vocation or work like I've been able to do. I'm very lucky that I've been able to do that. I don't really want to take too much of your time today. I'll be around Friday. I'm coming back to school today to talk to the band students. Tomorrow, of course, there's a ceremony. I just want to say this. All of the people that are going into this induction class, whether they're here to speak to you this morning or not, despite the fact that they come from different disciplines, they have different interests, they have different sets of experiences, they're different ages. I think all the people in this class have one thing in common that you should learn and remember. And that is that they're no stranger to hard work. It seems glib or very easy to say, but All of us in this induction class are older than you by at least 20 or 25 years. We've been around. We work with a lot of people. We've met a lot of people. We've been in a lot of different work environments. And we've encountered people that work hard, and we've encountered people that don't. And people that work hard achieve. People that work hard know how to set goals. They develop visions. And then they set about executing those goals and visions. And they achieve. As Mr. Kilgore just mentioned, you might have a goal to get a college degree. It's a large goal. It's a long-term goal that takes 4 or more years. But you're not going to achieve the goal of getting a college degree if you don't get up and get out of bed every morning. That's a short-term goal. And getting up out of bed and setting about the hard work of your day adds up over time, and then you can achieve great things. So my message to all of you simply this morning is, please don't be a stranger to hard work. Set goals. Develop visions about where you want to be and what you want to do. Find things that you're passionate about. For example, myself and Mia, we're in the arts. Naturally, you might think that arts people are passionate. It's not just people in the arts that are passionate. Everybody that's going to get up here or that has gotten up here and talked to you that's going into this Hall of Fame class is passionate about something. They're passionate about what they do. They're passionate about their interactions with other people, as teachers, as mentors, as managers, as administrators, as bosses, if you will. They love what they do. So I want you to find something that you love, that you do, and do it to the best of your ability. Work hard. Thank you.
Hope everybody's paying attention, because these are good lessons. Our next speaker this morning under the arts classification is Mr. Les Jones, graduate in 1983. He is a 1987 graduate of Carnegie Mellon University in graphic design, printmaking, and illustration. He also studied modern dance. Les enjoyed a long career as a computer animation designer for KDKA TV, The Oprah Winfrey Show in Chicago, and The Today Show in New York City. At the same time, he has danced nationally and internationally with modern dance companies. He is currently an associate director of package design and visual merchandising at Estee Lauder and Clinique Cosmetics in New York. There you go, ladies. There's a guy to talk to after this. Les is a veteran triathlete and marathoner. There you go, athletes. And with 6 Ironman finishes. He is a USAT triathlon certified multi-sport and swim coach, and is co-director of the famous New York Tritons Triathlon Club. Put your hands together, Mr. Les Jones.
How are you this morning? You can probably tell from all that stuff that I didn't leave this school knowing exactly what I was going to do. And there's a lesson in that. I graduated from here in 1983. When I came here in 1981, that pool over there had just been built. We started a swim team, the first swim team here. We were laughably bad. We spent 3 years trying to get better. By the time I was a senior here, we won our section championship here. I was undefeated in backstroke. And president of the school, went to high school yearbook, all these great things that I thought everyone was going to care about when I got to college. I got to college and I was a little bit lost. I went to Carnegie Mellon, and everybody was the president of their school. It didn't necessarily make me stand out or make me special in any way. I had to figure out what made me special for me. So I was an artist, I was an athlete. I had been swimming since I was 6 years old. I love the water. And I was trying to figure out how to put those things together. It was always understood that I would go to school for fine arts. I get to college, not sure what to do with myself because I'm not sure who I am. I'm at a large university with not a lot of people of color. I am discovering myself and trying to admit my sexuality to myself. I'm a gay man. I am comfortable with that now, but I was not comfortable with that then. And I come out of college and with a fine arts degree in graphic design and illustration, and what do? I join a modern dance company. I start working in television. I moved to Chicago, working in television. I moved to New York to work in television and dance. All that time I had still been doing the sports and the athletics. The great thing about it is, the thing I want to say about it now is that as you sit here, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do. You just have to know that you want to go on a journey. You just have to know that you can start today thinking about where you want to go and what you want to do. You don't have to know what the end result is. You can figure that out along the way. Sometimes when you're too sure what that end result is, you develop blinders, and those blinders kind of don't allow you to see all the detours that maybe you were meant to go down. I'm very excited about all the things that I'm doing, I'm still doing. The triathlon club that I coach is a GLTB-based club. It's all about making sure that there's diversity in athletics. I live right now about 2 miles from where the US Open is played. So there's a lot of athletics in my life. The intersection between arts and athletics is movement. You know, swimming is movement. If there's any swimmers or runners or cyclists out here, then you know that it's about movement, it's about grace, it's about beauty. Triathlon is a sport that I've learned a lot about life about. And one thing I want to tell you about that is, one time I was doing this Ironman race. An Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 110 mile bike ride, and followed by a marathon. You've got 17 hours to do it, and you're all on your own. So you learn in this situation that there are going to be times in your life where you're the only person you can rely on. And I remember one time getting out of the swim and getting on a bike, 110 miles to go. I spent the first half of the bike ride regretting what I did in the water, thinking it wasn't good enough. I'm a swimmer. I should have been able to come out at the top of my age group or higher in my age group. I should be able to have had this amazing swim and get on the bike. It wasn't good enough for me. It doesn't matter what the swim really was, but it wasn't good enough for me. I spent the second half of the bike ride worrying about the run. I got to get off this bike 6 hours from now and run a marathon, 26 miles. Running was not my first choice. It came with the plan when you decided to do a triathlon. The lesson I learned there is that because of all that, I totally lost the bike ride. I forgot about the bike ride. In other words, I forgot about where I was in that present moment. I was too busy regretting the past and fearing the future. And if you just enjoy the bike ride, and this is your bike ride right now, if you enjoy the bike ride, don't worry about what happened yesterday. Don't worry about what happened tomorrow. Don't worry about what the person next to you might think of who you are, what your sexuality is, how much you weigh, what your race is. Your journey is your journey, and it starts today. You can start today. Sometimes we get overwhelmed on what the end goal is. You know, we've got to get from A to Z, be based on what we might want or what our parents might want. And sometimes all you really need to do is get from A to B. You know, what is the first thing you need to do? I tell clients that maybe you want to do a big race someday. Well, your first victory is to get on a bike, or your first victory is to open a book, or your first victory is to sign up for a race, or your first victory is to tell someone you're gay. So you can do these things, and you do not have to wait. And I'm excited for you to go out into the world and let people know who you are, what your passion is, what you love, and that's the way that you're going to be successful. That's the way that you're going to do what you love and truly be who you are. And you can be who you are, let everyone else know who you are, and if they still don't like you, then at least they don't like the person that you really are. It's not somebody that you're trying to be. So be who you are, be an incredible athlete, be an incredible artist, be the smartest person in the room. Don't be afraid of any of it, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to enjoy the bike ride. Thank you.
Our next speaker, I'm Mia. Mia and I went to school together as well. One of the best looking girls in the school and still is pretty attractive. I was a year younger and I was like, ooh, there's Mia Price. Little side note. Teachers are human too, geez whiz. Mia graduated in 1988 from Uniontown High School. Mia is a former actress and dancer and former member of the famous Rockettes. She has toured throughout the United States and internationally as well. She has appeared on Broadway, in movies, theater, musicals, and on television. Mia graduated from Point Park College and started her performing arts career in Pittsburgh. At age 27, she moved to the Big Apple and landed a role the next day. Her current profession, which is the hardest, is that of a mother. She has 2 young children. She also still teaches future Broadway dancers and is anxious to get back into show business with her children as they get older. Please welcome Mia Price.
Whoa, good thing my husband's not here. Hello, welcome this morning. It seems like just yesterday when I was in your seats, so excited to get out of algebra or gym or anything. I'm very, very, very honored to be inducted this weekend into the UHS Hall of Fame. Who even knew there was a Hall of Fame here? But there is. And as one of the other speakers said, maybe one of you will be inducted as well someday. It is truly a great honor, and it's really cool to meet other people from different graduating classes who have succeeded. I'm from the class of 1988. I was a Raiderette. Any Raiderettes out there? Yeah, girls. I was looking for my uniform, but I couldn't find it. But I bet I could still fit into it. So I know all your parents are probably saying to really take time to enjoy being a teenager, that it goes really, really fast. And I'll tell you that that's definitely true. And just like it goes very fast, time definitely flies when you're having fun. And that's the career that I chose, a fun career. I began dancing at the age of 7 at Lorraine Sousa Dance Unlimited. That still is here in town. Anybody from Lorraine Sousa here? Yeah, girls? All right, good. So my dance teacher, Lorraine and Kathleen, are still in business, in case you want to go down and sign up. It's right around the corner. But they taught me so many wonderful lessons. And from when I was very young, she planted a seed in my little head here and said, you should be on Broadway someday. So I said, okay. And I would tell everybody, I want to be on Broadway. I'm going to be on Broadway. I didn't even know what that meant. And for those of you who might not know what that means, Broadway is a street in Manhattan filled with many theaters. Those theaters are full of actors and dancers and crew people and business people, lots of people just laughing their heads off all day long, all night long, and making a very good living doing it. So I was very, very lucky that even though I made pretty good grades here and everybody was pretty nervous about me pursuing a career in performing arts, I went for it anyway. And I went to Point Park College, now also Point Park University, and I studied dance and theater for 4 years and studied journalism and communication so I could have something to fall back on, but I was determined not to fall back. And I knew in my heart of hearts that I would always be a performer and an actor, and that's what I really wanted to do. Even though it's really, really exciting and fun, it's not always that easy. Being a professional dancer is very grueling. I was a Radio City Rockette for 6 years. If you don't know what that is, you can tune into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade this year and you'll see. So it's 36 ladies who line up and kick their leg up to their eye and work so hard that when the show is over, we go up to the top floor of Radio City Music Hall and we sit in an ice bath up to our shoulders. So that's how grueling that can be. Throughout my career in Manhattan, I will say the competition was incredibly fierce. One time I went to an audition for the musical Chicago, and there were 750 people trying out that day. So we lined up outside, kind of like when you see on American Idol and they're lining up outside, there were that many people. And through the grapevine we hear that they are hiring 2 people. So some people just packed it up and went home, maybe. And a lot of people got discouraged, and I said, oh, 2 people? Cool, I'll just be one of those 2 people. They have to hire 2 of us, they might as well hire me. And I'm pretty sure with that kind of cocky attitude, that's what got me that job that day. I was one of the 2 people. That job sent me to Tokyo, Japan, to do the show there, which was really exciting. I also spent another year in Japan as a dancer in a show, and that year I got to learn Japanese because if I didn't, I would have been pretty secluded. So I had to learn Japanese, which was incredible. Another highlight, I made my Broadway debut in the musical Oklahoma. With that musical, I got to be on the Tony Awards, I got to be on David Letterman and the Today Show, and again, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That was a really fun gig to do because it's on television every year, and a lot of my friends and family from Uniontown will try to spot me as quickly as they can since we flash by the screen pretty quickly, but it's pretty exciting and a nice way for my family and friends to see. I will say that I feel incredibly lucky, and of course they say that luck is when preparation and opportunity meet together, right? Have you guys ever heard that quote? So in other words, you just want to prepare yourself and find something that you're really passionate about. Mine was dance. And then you have the opportunity, standing in line with 750 people, and then you get really lucky and be one of those 2 people that they hire. Also, I did some national tours. My first national tour was so glamorous. We traveled in a bus, and I got to see 48 states of the 50 states, though. So I still have Alaska and Hawaii on my bucket list. But we traveled every day, all day long on a bus, got out, did a show, stayed in a not so nice motel, got back on the bus and traveled. So my career started there, but it ended up much better. I've been in first class before, at least, to get to a job. And so it's not always super glamorous, but it's super fun. And finally, I just want to say that if you find your own passion, anything that you might be interested in, even though you come from a very small town, we love Uniontown, right? You can follow your dreams, and remember that someone's got to succeed out there, right? So it might as well be you. Thank you.
Oh, man. So ni hao? Ni hao Thailand? That's the only Japanese I know. Our next person couldn't make it this morning, Dr. Joseph John, but he did give Mr. Mercadante a little message that he would like me to read to you this morning. He is, and this is Mr. Mercadante's writing, so bear with me, it's not tight. He's back in the USA from Greece, and he got, I guess, stuck in Philadelphia, and he unfortunately couldn't make it this morning. But his message is for you to develop resilience, build lasting relationships, read, read, read. Have one expertise, I guess. Again, it's Mercadante's writing. Have an expert skill, have an expert skill, laugh even if you can't. Have fun, yours sincerely, Dr. Joseph John. So that's Mr. John, and he will be there this evening. Hopefully he makes it out of Philadelphia. Our next person, and I've heard this name for many, many years, and I met him last year, awesome individual. Mr. Gene Huey was a 1965 graduate of Uniontown High School. He's an NFL player and coach. Obviously, he's under our athletics part of our Hall of Fame. Gene was an all-around athlete at Uniontown, playing football and basketball and running back. He played on the Raiders' 1964 state championship basketball team. Gene played college football at the University of Wyoming, where they won 3 conference championships. He played defensive back and wide receiver. Gene co-captained the team and set 13 receiving records. He won all conference honors in both defense and offense. Gene was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and also played for Minnesota and San Diego. His coaching career started at his alma mater, Wyoming, and also included New Mexico, Nebraska, which, by the way, my uncle was a huge fan, and he knows you, Arizona, and Ohio State. He spent 19 years as a running backs coach for the Indianapolis Colts and earned a Super Bowl ring there. Gene always enjoys his trips back to home to good old Uniontown. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gene Huey.
Morning, and certainly glad you guys took the time to be here this morning. It's always a pleasure to come back home, and the thing that really makes me feel home is when I can look over the hill and I see the cross at Drummondville. All these years, it's always something that says, hey, welcome home, and you feel safe once you're back in here. And I plan on coming back for my 50th high school reunion in October. And what I want to do is go up there and either watch the sunset from up there or be there when the sun rises. And that will be a special treat. This morning when I was coming into the building, I saw Mrs. Emerson getting out of the car along with her daughter and granddaughter, Beatrice, right? There's Beatrice. Beatrice. I was so impressed because when I meet youngsters a lot of the time, whether it be male or female, and they extend their hand out to shake my hand, I'm always seeing if they give me a firm handshake or feel that firm handshake of conviction. And she did that right away. She introduced herself to me, says, hi, I'm Beatrice. And I thought, hey, impressive. Because what I usually do, if I get one of those limp, girly handshakes by a female or a male, I always say, put some bones in that fish. And she was so impressive this morning when I walked in the door and first met her, and I thought, this will be a good morning. Also, I watched somebody coming through the door and they had their head down, and they were doing what with those 2 thumbs? Texting, right? So they bumped into somebody, and I thought back to when I was here in high school, and I graduated in '65. We did our texting at the same time. You guys do it electronically, and so do I. I've learned, and my kids also do it. You guys do that texting electronically, sending notes back and forth to each other. Well, I used, and a lot of us at that time, used a textbook which held a love note to your significant other. So you guys texted, we were using textbooks to pass notes when we passed the hall. And back there, and kind of, I don't know if the configuration is still the same when I was here in '65, and I'll have to admit this, I don't want you guys following up on this, but I stole my first kiss back in the back part of that auditorium. It was that good. It was that good. Can't tell you the name of the person. But anyhow, I'd also like to thank Anthony Mercandani, and there are other people who served with him in this third year of its inception of this Hall of Fame, who've done a great job. And I think of Rich Dorina sitting down here in the front, Mark Wood, certainly Tom George over here to my right, whose father was a photographer, professional photographer, as is Tom. He was our band director here at one time. I remember when I was selling newspapers, the Sunday Pittsburgh Press on the northeast side of town, over off 51. And Tom reminded me of the story. He said, my dad said he would give you free photos if you taught me and my brother how to play basketball. So one Sunday after I was finished taking my Pittsburgh Press papers, I emptied my pockets of all the coins, and he's telling me the story, I didn't remember. And I proceeded to teach him some basketball skills. Well, I won out on that one. He ended up doing what he did, which wasn't in the NBA. I ended up being a professional coach. But thanks, Tom, for that, and certainly to your father and your family. I grew up in East End, in a very diverse community, which is a treasure for me, which I will always embrace. Bob Fee and his son Tom and Jim and Bob Jr., they all live right next door to Mount Rose Baptist Church. Trip Radcliffe, who's William Radcliffe, an attorney here in town, grew up here on Grant Street, whose home I'm staying at right now when I visit Uniontown. Chris Kluss and I are great friends. O.C. Kluss number, third generation. We were just down in south part of West Virginia yesterday, last 2 days playing golf. So I've got great friendships and memories of growing up here. And also, another person who's going to be inducted into this Hall of Fame is my cousin, Ben Gregory. His family flew in last night, his son and daughter and grandson. They will be here tomorrow. They're in town, but they'll be here for tomorrow's ceremonies. So I'm really grateful and proud of the fact that I can be inducted at the same time my cousin Ben Gregory, who played football in Nebraska, as did his son Morgan, who's here tomorrow. So all three of us will be partaking in the festivities. I want to now, and I'll quickly try to get through this, is just to give you a little quick history of some things that have been life lessons for me that I have learned that have helped me in my profession, and certainly just being who I am. When I was in grade school down here at Ella Peach, as it was called then, it's now Central, I had a teacher named Ruth Dutton, who was the principal and the sixth grade teacher. She would choose me, in those days it was the Cold War, where, we're in it with Russia and what have you. So I'd have to walk through the hallways cranking the air raid siren, where we all would go back to our rooms and duck under our desk in the event of a nuclear attack. Little did I know that had that bomb gone off, I'd been a skeleton walking that hallway, cranking that the siren. And she also chose me to be the one who would clean the chalk erasers on Friday, and also clean the slate boards. They were black, and that's what they would write on with the chalk. And every time I did that on a Friday, I'd take that water and change it 5 or 6 times till I got it perfectly right, correct, with no streaks. You couldn't have a slate board with streaks. And at the end of the day, on the chalkboard, she would have a dime placed right there on the chalkboard. That was for me. And what I did every Friday, I got that dime. So I'd go to G.C. Murphy's over there on Main Street. I get 2 cents worth of cookie crumbs, 2 bags. I'd walk out of Murphy's, all those crumbs and pieces were broken up into 2 bags. I'd take those bags out and eat those cookies. Then I put the other 8 cents back into my pocket and I thought that I was rich. That was a great lesson for me. And the reason why is this. There's no job too large or too small to give your best at it and to make it right and do it with the understanding that, hey, whatever they give me, I will do it. And I'll do it very well. And that's always followed me in my coaching profession and the way I live my life. And I always felt like you do it repetitively until it's correct. And if you do it over and over and over and over and you take charge of it, it's yours, you own it. Another thing I did was up in the mountains here, the road that turns right after the Summit Hotel. We were working on a program in the summer, a bunch of us, maybe 10 guys, and we were just building drywall, these stone walls up there and doing some culvert work and those kinds of things. And I was on a backhoe, and I had never had the experience of running a machine, and I had a scholarship going to Wyoming in '65, and we're working up there in the summer, and I was back in this backhoe up and it went over a rock. And had I not looked back and felt the presence of a flatbed truck behind me, I would have both my ankles crushed, and who knows about the scholarship abilities or opportunities after that. But what the guy told me when I jumped down off the backhoe, because I sensed the truck being there, he said, get back up on that backhoe. And that always stuck with me, so no matter what I've been exposed to, something that might be negative. We were in 2, 3, and 13 seasons when I was with the Colts back to back, but you always got back up and got back up on the backhoe and did it right. I was in 2 airplane accidents while I was coaching in college. And the fear would be not to go back on another airplane. But that memory of that incident up in the mountains that time got me back on the airplanes. So you overcome the fear of failure, and that's what that served me. Another life lesson, I was student teaching in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I went to school, University of Wyoming. Anyhow, I was looking for an apartment, and this is really good. So I go over to Cheyenne, 60 miles east of Laramie, Wyoming. So I see a for rent sign in this home, apartment for rent. So I go up and knock on the door, and now watch this. It was an elderly white couple who came to the door. And the guy had just gray hair, as did his wife. They looked like they were right out of a Norman Rockwell painting. So I said, I would like to see your apartment. It was a detached garage in the back. He took me back. It was immaculate. It was spotless. Well, I learned how to keep house and clean when I was a kid. My grandmother taught me that. She was a domestic. So anyhow, I said, I'll bring you back the deposit tomorrow. He agreed. I came back to the apartment, his house. He opens the door, and I'm all pumped up because I have my checkbook. And he goes, well, Mr. Huey, the missus and I decided we're not going to rent the apartment. Now, you're sitting out here in a diverse audience, and I know what's going through some of your minds as to why he would not let me rent that apartment. And so did those same thoughts were in my mind. Is it because I'm single? Is it because I'm black? Does he not want to rent this thing now for real? Or what's going on with this? So he and his wife, they were shoulder to shoulder like this, quivering a little bit, and they sat down on this couch that enveloped them. So I said to myself, I know old folks, they go to bed early. You're not going to bed. I said this to myself. You're not going to bed till I get this apartment. So I stood there giving them references. I was a co-captain of Wyoming. I played football. I'm reputable. I'll take care of your place. And so this went on for a little bit. And then finally, he says, okay, I'm going to rent the apartment to you. And he did. So during the winter months, I would go out and shovel the snow on their sidewalk. Not because I felt obligated to do it, but I respected elderly people, regardless of who they were, where they come from, what they look like. It was my duty to help whenever I could. So I'd shovel snow and all those things during the winter months. Come time for me to leave that apartment, he came through and did his white glove inspection of the apartment. And it was immaculate when I first got it. He looked at me and said, Mr. Huey, he said, you gave me back my apartment better than I gave it to you. So through all those years in my coaching, anybody who I've coached, it was like BASF. I didn't make the product, but I made the product better. And I received those kinds of things here in this city, in this town, from the people who were mentors in my life. And so what did that lesson teach me? It was just to be honest and accountable. I got two more. Teamwork. In 2006, when we won the Super Bowl with the Colts, I had two running backs. One was Joseph Adai, who was a first-round draft pick from LSU. Should have come in and started. They paid him big money. The second was a kid named Dominic Rhodes, who was an undrafted free agent a year or two before that. Here's what I did in this situation. I watched Adai in practice in minicamp, and he didn't look like he was the lead dog of the Iditarod, meaning that he couldn't stay in that game for 3 plays every time to be an all-around back. So I wanted Dominic Rhodes to have the opportunity to start because he gave our team energy from the previous year, replacing Ezra and James. So I had a lot of raised eyebrows from administration, from some of the coaches who've been around longer than I have, as to why are you going to start this unknown guy ahead of this #1 draft pick, and how is that president going to explain this to the owner of the Colts, Jim Irsay, that they're starting a backup to a #1 draft pick from LSU? I made a decision. I didn't ask anybody, but I went on my own experience as a coach. And I had some opposition from my immediate supervisors, but nobody bothered me. I went to Tony Dungy. I'm sure a lot of you heard of Tony. And I said, Tony, as the head coach, you want me to change this and reverse the situation? And he came to me and said, Gene, keep doing it the way you've been doing it. Well, I left the guy as the backup, Dominic Rhodes, the unknown, as the starter. Adai got over 1,000 yards. Dominic Rhodes could have easily been the MVP of the 2006 Super Bowl when we beat the Chicago Bears. But Tony Dungy allowed me to do that. And Tony Dungy, who was a quarterback at the University of Minnesota, who was black, and he told me the reason why he chose the University of Minnesota was because Sandy Stevens, a graduate of this high school, played quarterback at the University of Minnesota in the 50s and took them to their only national championship. And that's why Tony went to the University of Minnesota. The reason why I took Dominic Rhodes and started him ahead of Adai, I wanted to keep pressure on the opponent and keep fresh legs in the ball game. And where I got that idea was from this high school in Abe Everhart, who some of you probably know who that is. You know who Joe Everhart is. And Mrs. Everhart, their 2 daughters, great family. Well, Abe had us as 2 units always pressing in the ball game, in the basketball games. And that's what I did with those 2 backs, who ended up being winners in the Super Bowl. One last thing here. There used to be a custodian in this school named Mr. Massey. He lived over on Daniel Street. An Italian neighborhood, primarily. I sat in his home years ago after he was deceased, he and his wife, and his son, Gerard Massey, and Stephanie, his wife, who I will see later on today and tomorrow. He sat there in that house at 9 Daniel Street. He said, Gene, when you used to deliver the Pittsburgh Press in the winter, my dad, who was a custodian in these halls, was a great man who I enjoyed visiting with in his home on Sundays, taking a break from delivering papers. He said, Gene, when you'd come here in the winter pushing that wagon through all that snow and slush, my dad looked at me a couple times and said, Gerard, you go back in my dressing room, look in my bureau, and get me a pair of those clean white socks for Eugene at that time, because his feet will be cold. What a compassionate man. What a compassionate man. So you learn to be compassionate or have compassion for others. Now, I told you the story of the dime initially. When I was released from the Indianapolis Colts after 19 seasons, I was the longest tenured coach in franchise history and remained. I scotch taped the dime to the chalkboard and the next coach, who's a running back coach, I scotch taped this dime onto his chalkboard. A year later, he asked me, "Why did you do that?" And I told him the story about Ruth Dunn when I was in grade school here in Uniontown. And I have to close this up by being very thankful and indebted, and certainly my gratitude to Lee Houtenbaugh, who was a former football coach here at Uniontown Area High School, as one of the greatest coaches ever around at that time. He was a fine coach, a fine guy, and that day when we were all here with a lot of championships, but he was the most responsible, and Fred Emswine, for getting me to the University of Wyoming that I took on a $55 one-way train ticket out west. Thank you, and I just want to say, it's been a pleasure to stand before you, to be back here at this high school, and just like in the words of Arnold Palmer, he said he was not from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, he is of Latrobe, and I am of Uniontown. Thank you.
Entertaining guy. I love to hear cool stories like that. Let's see, our next speaker, our last speaker, who's everyone's boss. Trying to hold out for him, because I don't see him just yet. I'll give him a little introduction so maybe he can come in as I'm introducing him. Dr. Macheski, as a 1971 graduate, he's a superintendent of the Uniontown Area School District. His service to the school district is his passion. So much so that Dr. Macheski has worked salary-free for the last few years. Dr. Macheski served as a school director in the 1980s and as mayor of the city of Uniontown in the 1990s. In the summer of 1992, he began his career with Uniontown Area School District as a principal of the district's 3 mountain schools. Wharton, Manila, and AJ. They're not mountain schools, there are names, right, Mrs. Deli? We were there. From there, he served as the district's first director of special education, and then he was hired as a superintendent in 2002. Dr. Macheski strongly considered retirement in April of 2012, but his maroon-white blood would not let him. His latest contract will keep him at the helm and at the same salary free for the next 5 years.
Thank you for waiting for me. I apologize for the lateness, but my daughter's flight from New York was canceled last evening, so this morning she had to come in overnight on the megabus, which is, if you've never traveled the megabus, it's like the fat bus that goes interstate. And she made it, so I just don't want to keep it any longer because I know you're longing to go back to class and are thirsting for some additional knowledge. However, what I do want to say is, I'm certain that there are many of you in this auditorium this morning who have your career paths planned, you know where you're going, you know what you want to do in life, and I'm certain you'll achieve it. And then there's students in there, like myself, when I was a senior. I really had no driving goal in life. I didn't quite know what I was going to do after high school. I did end up, when I graduated from this same auditorium, I attended the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, and really didn't like that. And I actually longed for Uniontown. And if you've read anything about the biography, I longed for it then, and I long for it now. So what I'm trying to say to all of you here in a very brief moment this morning is that all of you seated here this morning have the opportunity to achieve success. As I stated earlier, some already have that success road paved and you're just beginning. Others are still in that area of uncertainty. You have time. Don't succumb to peer pressure or external pressures of any type, but make sure when you make your decision that it's going to be a decision or can be a decision that you can live with for the rest of your life. That you can either relocate to the area of your choice to follow your chosen profession, but also to those who denigrate and talk poorly about Fayette County and the Uniontown community. There is an opportunity here for this current generation. I'm encouraging those of you that think that you may want to stay here not to feel negative or defeated about the fact that I don't want to be in Uniontown the rest of my life. Listen, it's not so bad. Particularly if you get homesick easily, if you have an affinity for this area and all that it has to offer, recreational, hopefully opportunities in employment for you, educational, whatever it is or wherever it is that you choose to pursue in your young lives, you certainly will be able to achieve whatever modicum of success it is that you're searching for. As you heard some of the speakers this morning, a lot of good has happened right here in the confines of this high school, right here in the confines of this community, and most, if not all of these individuals have achieved the highest levels of success in their chosen professions in areas outside of the community. Mrs. Emelson, who was a faculty member here when I was a student here, chose to dedicate herself to the students of Uniontown, and many are forever grateful to her. For example, this auditorium that we're seated in is named after Mrs. Emelson. And there's only 3 parts of this school district that are named after individuals that served and worked here. So, what I want to do is, first of all, congratulate all of my predecessors here at the podium this morning for their success and pride and dignity that they have brought to the Uniontown community because of the national and in some cases international fame that they have achieved. To think that we've had astronauts from this high school, that we've had performers on Broadway and the New York Radio City Music Hall on this stage, professional football players and coaches, and just many more professors at universities throughout the United States. Just to think this group this year and those 2 groups on the banners that you walk past in the hall every day have brought a tremendous amount of pride to our community. I'm humbled and honored to have been included in this year's class. I'm thankful that the committee gave me this opportunity and recognizing it not for so much for any great levels of achievement, but as evidence for the fact that if you breathe long enough, somebody will eventually notice you. So, that being said, thank you so much for waiting and enjoy the rest of the day, and I hope some of you can come and share part of the day with us tomorrow. Thank you and have a great day.